exclusive, IMAX CEO Rich Gelfond. Rich, you got hundreds of screens on the ground in China. How many right now?
800, Liz.
800. You have been one of the first CEOs decades ago to go into China and establish relationships. I would imagine you've talked to some of your partners, or at least people you know on the ground. What are you hearing about this new move by the China Film Association?
Well, not only have I talked to people in China, but I've talked to a number of studios in the U.S., and I'll give you the answer, and then I'll give you some of the context. I think it's going to have virtually no impact. What they've said is the blockbuster movies, like the ones you mentioned, and F1 and Mission Impossible and Avatar and Zootopia, they're all going to get in. It's going to be the secondary movies, like, you know, ones I don't even know, and certainly IMAX doesn't play, when they say there'll be a moderate reduction. The context is a blogger in China, or a couple of them, talked about a ban, and then the Chinese government sort of said there's not going to be a ban, there might be a moderate reduction. And I think people misunderstood when that went, and as you know what that meant. And I've talked to a lot of the Hollywood studios, and they've heard from the Chinese government that it's going to be really minor films, and we've heard the same thing.
Interesting. Okay, so that is the headline here, and I would say we go with that because really the Chinese for years have been limiting the number of American films. I think most recently it was 10 a year.
It was 34, Liz, until recently, the last couple of years. It's important to note that getting people into malls for their domestic economy is very important in China. Right. And one way they do that is open the aperture to how many films they let in. And last year they let in Deadpool. You know, they let in every movie. That you couldn't have imagined that years ago. So they don't want to slow their domestic economy, especially with the tariffs coming and their export economy really hurting. So that's the last thing they're going to do. And as you know, President Trump isn't necessarily the biggest fan of Hollywood and Hollywood films.
Yeah, I think he was quoted as saying, I've heard of worse things than a ban on some of the Hollywood films. He said that this weekend. And by the way, he is hosting the Ohio State football team, the national champions. So that's happening at the White House right now. We were just seeing him with some of the team members. But
so my point was just they would go after agriculture or other things that are really going to hurt him. You know, the dollars and the narrative around President Trump, it doesn't seem logical that they would go after movies.
It feels like, and I could be wrong, but that IMAX has double exposure in a good way. So you obviously get a bump when the big hits from America come there, but you also, in your fourth quarter results, most recently, you said you had broken the box office record with the Lunar New Year slate of films. And these are domestic films in many cases, so you make money either way, correct?
Yeah, and the film in the first quarter, Ne Zha, did over $160 million in box office for IMAX. And as a matter of fact, we get a bigger piece of the pie when we play a Chinese film than we do when we play a Hollywood film. We pre-announced that our first quarter box office was our best first quarter ever and one of the best quarters we've ever had. So fundamentally, our business is really the best it's been in years, and with the blockbusters, it's going to continue. So a lot of what's going on in China is just noise.
Okay. Noise. What isn't noise is what's happening for the summer. A lot of movies coming out. Sinners comes out this Friday. That's not summer, but you've got Thunderbolts in May, Fantastic Four, July, Superman Legacy, July as well. What are you looking at as far, and then of course Mission Impossible, right?
Well, and then for the rest of the year, you didn't even have to go. There was Avatar, Zootopia, you know, many other films. So we have 8 in a row now that were actually filmed with IMAX cameras, which you over-index on. And it looks spectacular. And some of the ones, like Mission Impossible and Formula One and Superman, their trailers have gotten a lot of excitement about them, and they're testing. You know, you do these audience tests before they come out, are all very high. Good. So we've announced that we expect this to be our box office best year ever, and you know, I reaffirm that ever.
Even pre
2019
COVID.
Ever.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay, we'll take that pre-announcement. And finally, you guys have been very creative in expanding beyond just films. You've done obviously your original documentaries, et cetera, but IMAX cameras were just used in a Drake video. Is that correct?
Yes, in Canada. He's Canadian.
Yeah.
And he wanted to celebrate his Canadian heritage, so he made a music video. We just had a soccer game in the UK, in France, I'm sorry, that sold out. League of Legends, music, you know about Taylor Swift, but a lot of other things. So we're broadening our platform.
Rich, we appreciate you coming on. I know you're very busy, and you've got a producer right over here who's dragging you out, so I know you have to go. Cora, can you just come over really quickly? This is his granddaughter. Hi, sweetheart. How old are you?
I am 8 years old.
And I like your hair color. Nice red hair color. You have a great granddad.
Thanks, Liz.
Cora,
Appreciate it.
good to see you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Rich